She stopped me at the door and whispered, "Don't talk to me tonight. You'll make me look bad." So I didn't. For 3 hours, I stayed silent while she worked the room, laughed too hard, and pretended I wasn't there. Every glance she shot my way, I gave her exactly what she asked for, nothing. Eventually she broke, pulled me aside, shaking, mascara smeared. "Why are you ignoring me?" she cried. I didn't answer. I was still doing what she told me to do. For context, I'm Jake, 29M. My girlfriend, Melissa, is 27F. We've been together a little over 2 years, living together for 8 months. This happened last Saturday at her coworker's birthday party, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm crazy or if this relationship has been quietly dying for a while. We were walking up to the front door of her friend's apartment. I had a bottle of wine in one hand, my phone in the other, doing that polite boyfriend thing where you rehearse small talk in your head. Before I could knock, Melissa stopped dead, turned to me, and said, "Just don't talk to me tonight. You'll make me look bad." No explanation, no smile, just irritation, like I'd already done something wrong. I laughed at first because I genuinely thought she was joking. She wasn't. She rolled her eyes and added, "I'm serious. Just be chill. Don't say anything weird." Something about the way she said weird stung. I asked what that meant, and she sighed like I'd asked her to explain basic math. "You over-explain things. You interrupt. And I don't want to babysit you tonight." That should have been the moment I pushed back. Instead, I just nodded. I didn't want to fight on the doorstep, and honestly, I was tired of being told I embarrassed her when I spoke like a normal human. So I made a decision right there. Fine. I won't talk. We walked in, and from that point on, I barely said a word. I smiled. I nodded. I answered direct questions with one-word responses. I stayed near the snack table and kept my mouth shut like she asked. Melissa, meanwhile, was in full performative mode. Loud laugh. Hand on people's arms. Stories I'd heard a dozen times, told like they were brand new. Every now and then she'd glance over at me, and I couldn't tell if she was checking to make sure I was behaving or making sure I stayed invisible. At one point, someone asked how long we'd been together. Melissa answered for me. "A while," she said, and changed the subject. I told myself it was fine. Temporary. Just get through the night. 3 hours later, everything blew up. But that's where I'll stop for now. The weird thing is, no one else seemed to notice anything was off. Or maybe they did, and just didn't care. People kept drifting past me, grabbing drinks, making comments about the music, the food, the view from the balcony. A couple of guys tried to pull me into a conversation about work. I answered politely, briefly, then let it die. Every time I opened my mouth, I could hear her voice from the doorway. "Don't talk. You'll make me look bad." Melissa didn't come over once to check on me. Not a "you okay?" Not even a look that said we were still on the same team. When she did look my way, it was sharp, assessing, like she was scanning for damage control. At one point, her friend Lauren handed me a beer and said, "You're really quiet tonight." I smiled and said, "Yeah." She waited for more. I didn't give it. She glanced over at Melissa, who was mid-story across the room, laughing way too hard at something unfunny. Lauren's face did this little flicker, like she'd just connected a dot she didn't like. About an hour in, Melissa brushed past me to get to the kitchen. I stepped slightly to the side so I wouldn't bump into her. She leaned in and hissed, "Why are you being so weird?" That almost made me laugh. I kept my voice low. "I'm doing what you asked." She scoffed. "I didn't mean be a statue. You're being awkward." I shrugged. I genuinely didn't know what the right answer was supposed to be anymore. If I spoke, I was embarrassing. If I didn't, I was awkward. There was no version of me that fit whatever image she wanted to project tonight. She rolled her eyes and walked away before I could respond. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. She didn't want me to behave. She wanted me to perform correctly. Quiet, but not too quiet. Present, but not noticeable. Boyfriend-shaped, without any personality edges. So I stayed quiet. I watched her tell a story about a recent work presentation, exaggerating her role, cutting out the part where I stayed up late helping her rehearse. I watched her accept compliments like they were owed. I watched her introduce me to someone as Jake, instead of my boyfriend. By the 2-hour mark, people were getting tipsy. Conversations got louder. The music got turned up. And Melissa's mood started to shift. She kept looking at me. Not quick glances anymore. Long ones. Something was building. And I had no idea yet that she was about to completely lose it. The breakdown didn't start loud. It started petty. She came over and stood directly in front of me, blocking my view of the kitchen like she expected me to snap to attention. "Are you mad at me?" she asked, already annoyed, already defensive. I shook my head. No. She narrowed her eyes. Then why are you acting like this? I'm not acting, I said. I'm just not talking. Like you asked. That was the wrong answer. She laughed, sharp and humorless, then turned to the couple next to us and said, See? This is what I deal with. Like I was a prop in a joke she'd rehearsed. They laughed awkwardly. I didn't. Melissa crossed her arms. You're doing this on purpose. For once, I said calmly. I'm doing exactly what you wanted. Her face flushed. She opened her mouth, closed it, then said, God, you always do this. You make everything about you. That caught the attention of a few people nearby. I could feel eyes shifting toward us. I stayed quiet. That's when she lost it. So you're just going to stand there and sulk all night? She snapped. You think this makes you look mature? It makes you look like an asshole. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't roll my eyes. I just said, I'm not sulking. She threw her hands up. Unbelievable. You come to my friend's party and embarrass me like this. Someone muttered, Hey, maybe, but Melissa cut them off. No, it's fine, she said loudly. He's just doing his thing. The silent treatment. Because apparently I'm the villain for asking him not to make everything weird. That's when it clicked for me. This wasn't about me talking too much, or being awkward, or embarrassing her. This was about control. She wanted me responsive when she wanted, invisible when she didn't, and grateful either way. I finally said one thing. Just one. You told me not to talk. The room went quiet. Melissa stared at me like I'd slapped her. Her eyes filled instantly, not with sadness, but with rage and humiliation. I can't believe you'd throw that back at me, she said, voice shaking. Wow. Just wow. She turned to her friends, voice cracking dramatically. I try so hard with him, and this is what I get. Then she started crying. Full breakdown. Loud. Shaking. Accusing me of ignoring her, of punishing her, of making her look crazy in front of everyone. I stood there, silent again, realizing something terrifyingly calm. This relationship wasn't fragile. It was already broken. People rushed in like they were responding to a fire alarm. Lauren put an arm around Melissa. Someone handed her a napkin. Another friend shot me a look like I'd just kicked a puppy. I hadn't moved. Melissa was crying hard now, gasping between words. He does this all the time, she sobbed. He shuts down and makes me feel insane. He knows it hurts me, and he does it anyway. That was news to me. Lauren looked over at me, eyebrows raised, clearly expecting an explanation. I opened my mouth, then stopped. I could already hear how it would sound. Defensive. Petty. Like I was backtracking. So I said nothing. That somehow made it worse. See, Melissa said, pointing at me without looking. He won't even deny it. Lauren sighed and said, Jake, maybe you should apologize. This isn't the time. Apologize. For what exactly? For listening? For being quiet? For not reading her mind correctly? I felt weirdly detached, like I was watching myself from across the room. The noise felt distant. The music was still playing. Someone laughed near the balcony. Life just kept going. Melissa pulled away from Lauren and stepped toward me again, eyes red, mascara starting to smudge. Say something, she demanded. Anything. Do you even care? I met her eyes. I do. Then why are you humiliating me? There it was. That word again. Humiliating her. Not us. Not the situation. Me as a prop in her image. I'm not trying to, I said quietly. I'm just tired. Tired? She snapped. You think I'm not tired? I have to manage you everywhere we go. That landed hard. Manage me. I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. A clean, cold understanding. I didn't realize I was that much work, I said. She froze, like she hadn't expected that tone. For a split second, the performance dropped. Then it snapped right back. Wow, she said, loud enough for everyone nearby. So now you're playing the victim. She turned away from me dramatically. I can't do this tonight. I just wanted one normal evening. She grabbed her coat and stormed toward the door, telling everyone she needed air. Two friends followed her immediately. I was left standing alone by the snack table, holding a warm beer I didn't remember opening. A guy I barely knew leaned over and said, Man, rough night. I nodded. Inside, though, something had already ended. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. I stayed another 10 minutes after she left. Not because I wanted to, but because I genuinely didn't know what the right move was anymore. People avoided me. Conversations shifted away when I got too close. I caught fragments. Couples fight. She's really sensitive. He could have handled it better. No one asked what she'd said to me at the door. No one asked what I'd been told to do. Eventually, I grabbed my jacket and headed out. Melissa was sitting on the front steps when I opened the door, arms wrapped around herself, phone in hand. She looked up like she'd been waiting for me the whole time. Relief flashed across her face, then irritation. "So you finally decided to come check on me?" she said. I stood there. "I figured you wanted space." She laughed bitterly. "Unbelievable. I'm crying outside and you're inside making everyone think you're the calm, reasonable one." "I didn't say anything to anyone." "That's the problem," she snapped. "You let me look crazy." That sentence hit harder than anything else that night. "I didn't make you do anything," I said carefully. "You told me not to talk." "Oh my God, you're still on that," she said, standing up. "I said that so you wouldn't embarrass me, not so you'd punish me." "Punish her?" "By being quiet." "I wasn't trying to punish you," I said. "I was just done walking on eggshells." Her face hardened instantly. "So now I'm the bad guy." I didn't answer right away. I watched a car pass at the end of the street. I noticed how calm I felt. That scared me more than the fight itself. "I don't think you like me very much," I said finally. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "That's insane. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't put up with you." Put up with me. There it was again. The framing. Me as a problem she tolerated. A liability she managed. A risk to her image. I nodded slowly. "That's kind of my point." Her voice rose immediately. "So you're just going to abandon me? After humiliating me in front of everyone?" "I didn't humiliate you," I said. "I disappeared. And you couldn't handle that." She opened her mouth to fire back, then stopped. For a split second, she looked unsure, like she realized something about herself she didn't like. Then she doubled down. "You're selfish," she said coldly. "You always have been." I didn't argue. I just said, "I'm going to go home." And for the first time all night, she didn't follow. The apartment was dark when I got home. Melissa hadn't beaten me there, which felt intentional, like she wanted me to sit with it. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and stood in the kitchen longer than necessary, staring at the sink. I kept replaying the night in my head, not to find what I did wrong, but to see if there was any version where I won. I couldn't find one. My phone buzzed. "Melissa, so you're really not going to apologize?" I didn't respond. A minute later. "Melissa, everyone thinks you were being cruel." That one almost got me. Almost pulled me back into explaining, defending, smoothing things over. That old reflex to fix it. Instead, I put my phone face down and sat on the couch. I realized something then. This wasn't the first time she'd rewritten a situation, so I was the villain. It was just the first time I hadn't played my part. I thought about other nights. Dinners where she'd kick me under the table for talking too much. Car rides where she'd tell me I sounded dumb in front of her friends. Parties where she'd summarize my opinions for me because I'd say it wrong. I thought that was compromise. Around midnight, the door slammed. Melissa walked in like she was entering a courtroom. Coat still on. Bag thrown onto the chair. She didn't look at me. "So," she said, "you good now? Got it out of your system?" I stayed seated. "I'm not mad." "That's even worse," she snapped. "You don't even care." "I do," I said. "I just don't think this is healthy anymore." She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "Wow. So you humiliate me, ignore me, and now you're dumping me?" "I didn't dump you." "Then what is this?" she demanded. "Some power play?" I shook my head. "No. I just realized I'm constantly adjusting myself so you don't feel embarrassed by me. And I don't think I can keep doing that." Her eyes narrowed. "So you're saying this is my fault?" "I'm saying I don't recognize myself anymore." That landed differently. I could tell. Her anger flickered, replaced by something like panic. "You're overreacting," she said quickly. This was one bad night. But I knew better. Because I wasn't upset. I was done. She didn't sleep that night. I know because neither did I. Melissa paced. Opened and closed cabinets. Took her phone into the bathroom. Then came out quieter, like she'd said something to someone that didn't land the way she wanted. Around 2 a.m., she sat across from me on the couch, knees pulled up, voice suddenly small. "I don't understand why you're being like this," she said. "You're acting like I'm some monster." I stared at the TV screen, which had been paused on the same frame for an hour. "I'm not acting." "Yes, you are," she said quickly. "You're doing that calm thing. That detached thing. It's manipulative." That almost made me smile. Not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. Any time I didn't react the way she expected, it became manipulation. "I'm just being honest," I said. "For once." She shook her head, frustrated. "You always do this when I need you to show up. You disappear." I finally turned to look at her. "You told me to disappear." She winced. "I didn't mean it like that." "I know," I said. "You meant you wanted control without responsibility." Her mouth opened, then closed. Silence stretched. She stood up abruptly. So what? You're perfect now. You never do anything wrong. I do plenty wrong, I said. I just don't think this one's on me. That's when the tone changed. Her voice went cold. If you walk away from this, everyone's going to know what kind of person you are. There it was. Not sadness. Not fear of losing me. Fear of losing the story. I'm okay with that, I said. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe she didn't. Because the version of me that bent and apologized and over-explained was gone. She laughed quietly. You're really going to throw this away over one sentence? I shook my head. No. I'm finally listening to what that sentence meant. She didn't respond. Just walked into the bedroom and shut the door. I stayed on the couch, oddly peaceful, realizing this wasn't a fight anymore. It was an ending. And endings don't need permission. Morning came quietly. Too quietly. Melissa didn't come out of the bedroom until almost noon. I'd already showered, made coffee, and sat at the table scrolling through my phone without actually reading anything. When she finally appeared, her eyes were puffy but dry. The crying phase was over. This was the regroup. She poured herself coffee and said, So what are you telling people? I looked up. About what? About last night, she said. Because I've already had 3 texts asking if I'm okay. Of course she had. I'm not telling anyone anything, I said. It's not my story to manage. She scoffed. Wow, you really don't care how this makes me look. There it was again. The image. The optics. Always the optics. I care how we treat each other, I said. And last night wasn't okay. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You humiliated me in front of my friends. I shook my head slowly. You humiliated yourself by needing me to disappear. Her jaw tightened. So you're sticking with that narrative. It's not a narrative, I said. It's what happened. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know what? Fine. If you're done, just say it. Don't drag this out so you can feel morally superior. That line told me everything. She didn't want repair. She wanted closure on her terms. I think we should take space, I said. Real space. Her eyes widened. You mean break up? I mean stop pretending this is working. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded sharply. Okay, if that's how you want to do this. I noticed she didn't argue. Didn't ask me to stay. Didn't say she loved me. She went into the bedroom and started pulling out a suitcase. That's when it really hit me. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared of losing control of the story. And for the first time since we met, that wasn't my problem anymore. She packed fast, like she'd rehearsed it. Clothes folded tight, toiletries dumped into a bag, chargers yanked from outlets without unplugging properly. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She narrated. I just hope you're happy, she said, zipping the suitcase. Blowing up a good relationship because you couldn't handle a little feedback. I leaned against the doorway, calm in a way that felt almost unsettling. It wasn't feedback. It was contempt. She froze for half a second, then scoffed. You're being dramatic. No, I said. I finally learned the difference. She hauled the suitcase into the living room and stopped, scanning the space like she was taking inventory. The couch. The photos. The shelf with plants she'd insisted on arranging herself. So what? You're just done? She asked. Not sad. Testing. I think I've been done longer than I realized, I said. I just didn't say it out loud. Her face tightened. You know, everyone warned me about dating a guy like you. I almost asked what that meant. Almost. But I already knew. A guy who didn't perform. Didn't fold fast enough. Didn't stay quiet when it mattered to her image. I'm going to stay with Lauren for a few days, she said. Don't text me unless it's important. I nodded. Okay. That response threw her. She lingered by the door, keys in hand, waiting for something. An apology. A breakdown. A plea. It didn't come. You're really not going to fight for this, she said flatly. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing sharp. Just distance. I fought by shrinking. I said, I'm not doing that anymore. She opened the door hard. You'll regret this. Maybe, but not today. When the door closed, the apartment felt bigger, quieter, like it could finally breathe. I sat down on the couch, the same one I'd slept on the night before, and realized something simple and irreversible. Silence only hurts when you're still trying to be heard. I wasn't anymore. It's been a week since that night, and the quiet hasn't gone away. Melissa never came back for the rest of her things. Lauren picked them up 2 days later while I was at work. No note. No message. Just absence, delivered efficiently. Very on brand. I did hear from Melissa once, though. A text at 1:14 a.m. I hope you know how much you hurt me. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally understood that whatever I said would just become part of a story where I was the villain. So I didn't respond. That was the moment I knew I'd changed. I've replayed that sentence she said at the door more times than I can count. Don't talk to me tonight. You'll make me look bad. At the time, I thought it was just her being stressed or snippy. Now I hear it clearly for what it was. It wasn't about the party. It wasn't about her friends. It was about how she saw me. Not as a partner. Not as someone on her side. But as a risk. A liability. Something to manage so her image stayed intact. And the craziest part? When I removed myself, when I actually did what she asked, she fell apart. Because I wasn't supposed to mean it. I was supposed to stay small, but still orbit her. Silent, but still available. Invisible, but still useful. I think that's what finally broke whatever was left. I don't hate her. I'm not angry. I'm just clear. Clear that love doesn't sound like warnings at doorways. Clear that respect doesn't require rehearsing your personality. Clear that anyone who's afraid of you making them look bad has already decided you're beneath them. So yeah, I ignored my girlfriend for 3 hours, and she had a breakdown. But the truth is, I stopped ignoring myself first. And once you do that, there's no going back.